I want to give you a really good concrete example of why voting still matters, why you voting in your local, state, and federal elections really, really matters. I've made a couple of videos pushing back against doomers who are saying elections are all rigged, we shouldn't bother voting, it's all hopeless. Because one, it's not hopeless. There are important elections happening every week across America, and there are important races being won, and I've talked about that. We are watching Democrats flip city, county, state level races all of the time since November. When you say that there's no point in voting and that elections are all rigged now, or it's hopeless, it's pointless, all you are doing is seeding our electoral process in advance to Donald Trump. Trump is actually really scared of free and fair elections. He's really, really scared of people turning out to vote. You know, part of the reason that he won, and a big part of the reason that he won in November, was that there were tens of millions of Americans who did not vote. And I don't like to say they didn't bother to vote because I know there's a lot of anger over the people who did not show up at the ballot box. It's important to remember the significant portion of those folks who are experiencing active voter suppression. That in Republican states, they want to make it as difficult as possible for people who tend to vote Democratic, typically people of color, to turn out to vote. Actually, Republicans want to suppress the vote any way that they can because the lower the voter turnout, the more that tends to benefit them. They can't win by having policies that people actually like. They can't win in open, free, and fair elections. That doesn't mean that elections are rigged and hopeless. It just means we have to work doubly hard to make sure that our vote counts and to make sure that especially vulnerable people, especially marginalized people, do not have their votes suppressed. There have been multiple instances recently where state Supreme Courts have come back to their Republican legislatures and said, absolutely not. You are gerrymandering the shit out of this state and you cannot do that. It's blatantly racist what you're doing. Go fix your districts. This is not happening here. Again, Republicans want to game the system, either to gerrymander a district, or the other thing they really love to do is to try to get votes thrown out after the election. People who showed up and voted, people who are American citizens who want their voices heard, they want to participate in the democratic process, they are trying to do their civic duty. Republicans try to get their votes thrown out on weird technicalities after the fact. Because if everybody's votes are counted, they are less likely to win. Republicans count on voter suppression. And when you tell people that voting doesn't matter, you are assisting the Republicans in actively suppressing the vote. You are demoralizing people. You are discouraging them from voting. And all that does is assist Trump. It's also just not factual. Again, we are watching important races all across the country in special elections where the process of democracy is working, where voting is actually working. Why? Why would you seed elections in advance rather than fight for the electoral process, rather than say, you know what, I'm going to work doubly hard to stop you. There's no fucking way my voice is not being heard. There is no way you are going to keep me from showing up at the ballot box. Trump and the Republicans absolutely want to discourage people from voting. If you are an active discourager of the voting process, all you are doing is being an assistant to Donald Trump. And is that what your goal is? Are you trying to help Trump? I understand that they are working to make it harder to vote, so we must work twice as hard to make sure that our vote gets counted. Y'all, every vote matters. It's so important that votes are cast and that they get counted. That is why they are trying to suppress them. They know that their policies, the things they want to do, are deeply unpopular with the American people. So they know that if people get to vote, they're going to vote against them. So they have a vested interest in telling you, don't bother, it's all fixed. Your voice has no power. Your voice absolutely has power. Your vote has power. Every single vote is important. And we've got to, as we are looking at special elections now, but definitely as we roll into the midterms, we have got to push for high voter turnout. We've got to make sure that nobody's vote is suppressed because every single vote is crucial. I want to share with you from our special election that I just voted in how much every vote matters. Mount Hood Community College, which serves East Portland, Troutdale, Gresham, that area, they had not been able to pass a bond in 50 years. And if you go look at their campus, you can see the stark difference between Mount Hood and well-funded Portland Community College campuses. The students at Mount Hood, they deserve a safe learning environment. They deserve things like air conditioning. They deserve things like having asbestos removed. They deserve things like functional fume hoods in their science labs. But over and over and over again, the bond kept failing for Mount Hood. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's because East County is more conservative and those folks didn't want to see an increase in their property taxes. Why should we fund education for the youth? Like, y'all, when I did the math, my property taxes were gonna go up less than $100. It was not very much, but it would make all of the difference to these students. And the initial reporting coming in as they were counting ballots was like, well, looks like the bond is set to fail once again. There are 4 people of voting age in my household, and all 4 of us voted yes on the bond. And we could have just as easily been like, oh, it's a special election. It doesn't matter that much. Oh, this bond always fails. There's no voting is hopeless. There's no hope. It always fails. Mount Hood is never going to get funded. The conservatives who don't want to add, $80, $100 to their property tax, they always win. So there's just no point. It's hopeless. We should just, concede in advance that the bond is not going to pass. But that's not what we did. We voted yes, and we had every intention of making sure that bond, we contributed our portion to making sure that the bond passed. And lo and behold, Mount Hood Community College narrowly approved their bond measure after 50 years of trying. This right here is what I want to highlight for everybody. Voting really matters, even if you feel like it's hopeless, even if the thing that is up for a vote has failed many times before, even if you feel like the odds are stacked against you, it is so important that you vote in every election. The bond passed by 131 votes. 131 votes makes a huge difference in the lives of thousands of students in East Portland. Every vote mattered. The 4 votes in our household, they really, really mattered. We were 4 of those 131 votes. I'm a really big fan of law school professor and attorney Joyce Vance, and she has talked about this a lot lately. How we must not pretend that our vote doesn't matter. We must not write a fiction in our heads. Whatever little bits of evidence we may have, we must not perpetuate the idea that elections are rigged and don't matter, because that's not what we're seeing. The evidence shows that elections really, really matter, that our vote really, really matters. So we need to not believe that fiction that we're writing in our head, and we need to not give over elections to the Republicans, to the party of fascism, to Donald Trump. We must vigorously defend and exercise our right to vote. A lot of folks have been saying this, and I completely agree. We need to all be super voters now. You vote in every single election, no matter how small your local special election is, you vote. It is more work for us right now, but we have a duty to be informed, active participants in our own democracy. It is our civic duty to not only vote, but to understand the importance of every election, to be informed about what is on the ballot, who is on the ballot, who we are voting for. I know it's more work, but we must be informed voters, and we must not let anything deter us from voting. I know I keep saying it over and over again, but the future is ours if we want to write it. It's not Donald Trump's future to write, it's ours. But that must mean that we cannot be passive participants in our own lives and in our own democracy. We must be active voters. We must absolutely take our civic duty very, very seriously. I would say we have been lax as American citizens in defending democracy. We have let the authoritarian creep on in. And we're paying a price for that now. And we must do more work in order to restore what we let slide. I know it sucks to be told that we have to work harder, but honestly, we should have been taking elections this seriously all along. So now we're just doing a little adjustment. We're reframing the situation. We are reevaluating the way we are involved in our relationship with democracy. We're saying, you know what? We were not really invested enough in our own communities, our own government, the way our tax money is being spent, who is getting to shape the society that we live in. We were a little checked out, but you know what? We have a chance now to fix that. We have a chance to be empowered, right? We don't need to see this as like a burden. This is a chance for us to be empowered and to say democracy has always been about the people having the power. We need to reclaim that power. We need to understand the importance of our role. It shouldn't be a chore. It shouldn't be a burden. It's a privilege to get to vote. It's a privilege and a duty. Recognize the privilege of living in a country where we get to vote, we get to help shape what happens here. And recognize the duty to defend that privilege and that right, because there are folks actively trying to take it away from us. So we're not going to hand it on over to them. We are going to vigorously defend our right to vote, and we are going to show up in every election. Maybe there's going to be something on the ballot that you really care about, and it might come down to 131 votes. It might come down to 4 votes. It might come down to your vote.